but didn't get me on curl.
Kanye West, Hey Mama, here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Our guest is the Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist David Barstow. He just won the award for, among his pieces, One Man's Military-Industrial Media Complex. Investigative reporter also wrote the piece Message Machine Behind TV Analysts, Pentagon's Hidden Hand. I want to turn right now to a clip of Dana Perino. This is the response from the Pentagon and the White House to your report. Former White House Press Secretary Dana Perino was asked about the program in April 2008, just after your piece appeared in the New York Times.
Did the White House know about and approve of this operation?
Well, look, I didn't know. I think that you guys should take a step back and look at this operation. Look, DOD has made a decision. They've decided to stop this program. But I would say that one of the things that we try to do in the administration is get information out to a variety of people, so that everybody else can call them and ask their opinion about something. And I don't think that that should be against the law. And I think it's absolutely appropriate to provide information to people who are seeking it and are going to be providing their opinions on it. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of those military analysts ever agreed with the administration. I think you can go back and look and think that a lot of their analysis was pretty tough on the administration. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk to people.
The former White House Press Secretary Dana Perino. David Barstow, your response.
One thing that I wanted to look at closely with this, I mean, you have to think about this, about the question of whether or not, I spent a lot of time looking at what was the information that was being told to this group. Was the information that was being told to this group, was it truthful? Was it accurate? Or was it spin? Was it whitewash? And the problem with what she just said is that when you dug deep into the weeds of this, when you looked at the talking points, when you looked at the transcripts of the conference calls between the military analysts and the Pentagon officials, while certainly there was plenty of truthful information that was given to them, time and time again, they were also given information that deeply contradicted what we now know to be the truth that was known inside the Pentagon and the White House about the true state of affairs in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, for example, on questions about, say, for example, let's take the effort to train up Iraqi security forces. These guys were constantly being told one story about how wonderful the effort was going, even though the White House and the Pentagon knew all along that this program was, in fact, the training effort was a mess in lots of different ways. You could also see it, even I remember talking to a couple of these guys who were brought in just before the war began, and they were brought in for a presentation about WMD. What do we know about WMD in Iraq? And even the guys who were there in these secret briefings about the WMD in Iraq, as they listened to the story they were being told by the Pentagon officials, had a clear instinct at the time that they were being given information that wasn't either very strong or wasn't accurate or didn't hold up. So, in other words, if what she said was true, if what the White House was doing was giving really a thorough briefing of what the White House and Pentagon knew about the situation in Iraq and Afghanistan and the war on terror writ large, that would be one thing. But that, in fact, is not what was happening in many of these sessions. And when you looked at the transcripts of these sessions, the other thing that jumped out at me was that there was never the normal kind of relationship you would see in terms of the tension between people who are journalists, who are independent-minded, and a government official. There was never that sort of questioning, that probing to see whether or not the information was really correct, or whether they were being told the whole story, whether they're being told the story straight. Instead, what you often came away with was this feeling that you were watching a kind of like a sales meeting, where the military analysts were sort of syncing up with the Pentagon and almost brainstorming together about, what would be a better way to explain this? What would be a better way to to communicate the themes and messages in order to keep the support for the war strong here at home.
And you have the Pentagon hiring a private contractor, Omnitech Solutions, to scour the databases for any trace of the analysts.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that is really important to understand here is that the people who were the kind of the architects of this, many of them were deeply influenced by the post-Vietnam experience, and they had this deep belief in them that the reason why ultimately we lost in Vietnam was because we lost control of the message here at home. And in their view, and this is something that Mr. Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and others said publicly, our strategic center of gravity in the war on terror wasn't in Baghdad, and it wasn't in Kabul. It was right here at home. It was with the American public. And so that's why they put so much effort into reaching and cultivating this group. And what you would see is when things like Abu Ghraib happened, when questions were being raised about the adequacy of the armor being given to American troops, invariably they would pull these guys in and they would sort of bring them in to neutralize the critical coverage, sometimes the critical coverage that was coming from the network's own war correspondents.
Finally, the investigations that are supposed to be ongoing. For example, the Government Accountability Office, the Federal Communications Commission, the whole issue of the U.S. propagandizing its own population, the Pentagon using the networks to do this.
Well, those investigations were waiting the outcome of the Defense Department Inspector General investigation. So the fact that, and after their report was initially issued in January, the Inspector General said, well, we may have to do some minor revisions on this. And my understanding is that those two other inquiries were kind of put on hold until they could get done with their minor revisions, except the ultimate outcome of that was not minor revisions, but outright repudiation of the report itself. So I'm not sure how that's going to influence the work that the GAO is doing or the FCC is doing.
Is it legal?
Is what legal?
Is what this entire program, is it legal? I mean, we had passed the Smith-Mundt Act after World War II against propaganda.
The problem with that is that our definitions about propaganda are so mushy, and I think it does need that sort of careful look by people who understand the statute and understand our traditions to make that call, and I trust that will happen.
Well, David Barstow, I want to thank you very much for being with us. Congratulations again on your Pulitzer Prize. David Barstow, investigative reporter with the New York Times, won the 2009 Pulitzer Prize for his articles, Message Machine Behind TV Analysts, Pentagon's Hidden Hand, and One Man's Military Industrial Media Complex.